Welcome to the Service Management Show from the team here at Ethicode. I'm Gary Blower, ITSM Practice Lead for Ethicode. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about establishing service management practices. I'm pleased to introduce my guest. I'll actually let them introduce themselves. So would you like to introduce yourself and what do you do and what do you get up to?
I'm Hind Diouani. I have over 20 years of experience in various roles around software development, life cycle, and service management. I'm quite passionate about this domain, so I'm quite excited to join you today for this podcast.
Thank you very much. Yes, and I should say we've met indirectly through my colleague Zara, who also met you indirectly through a group called the Women of IT Service Management. I don't know if you want to sort of talk about that event and what it was all about.
Absolutely. It was the first meetup of this group, the new community that was established this summer. And as you could imagine, many of us passionate about the ITSM will take any opportunity to meet our colleagues, hear each other, discuss what's happening in the market. And that's how I met Zara. We both directly connected and discussed our various interests. And she shared with me what your company does. And I was really happy to hear that you have a podcast. And I took the opportunity to join when possible.
Yes, it's great to have you. And actually, as well as talking to yourself, Zara and I spoke to the two ladies that established that community, and it's sort of fascinating history, and really great that community now exists, and obviously yourself. And I know a couple of my clients, I believe, were at that session as well, and I've heard good things from them as well. So yeah, it's on LinkedIn, isn't it? I think it's a LinkedIn group.
Yes, absolutely, and it's for men and women, so it's women ITSM. Anyone can join. It's I think it's a smaller group of individuals who do service management in general in a company, depends on the maturity. So when we find each other, we're all excited to hear, how do you do this? How do you challenge or how do you navigate the various challenges? We try to learn from each other. And I think what you find, each of us has a very unique pathway, a very unique career. And I think each of us will have a unique story of how we ended up in these roles. It's not really a career that you would pick up based on a specific skill set you do at university. I think it's something that people grow into naturally.
Yeah.
I think that could bring us nicely to the next topic is, for me personally, service management is more about a soft skill, which is communication and bringing the various departments together in a company to achieve the goal, whether it's delivering a product or running a service or maintaining a service functional. And the service management function, I think while there is ITIL, which defines clearly what we do, service management is about making sure all these teams run smoothly and operate well, understand each other and communicate. And the word I used the other day, we had an informal chat. I think service management is the glue that brings the various departments together, not only from IT or service delivery, but also with the customer. We're somewhere in the middle, making sure the customer is heard in their requirement, that the development team, the project team, and the support team have a clear understanding of that. And we take away somewhere those when things don't go well or when things are not clear, and we try to bridge the gap. And we do postmortem, for example, when there's an incident. We do lessons learned, we do continuous improvement, and we try to take the information from all the sides, the feedback, we investigate, and there's no really prescriptive way of doing that. It's more a soft skill of understanding where there are gaps, hearing what people are trying to say, taking note of that, and then most importantly, communicating it back as well as reporting on it.
Absolutely, yeah, and I love that phrase. It's the glue that brings everything, holds everything together. Because I think that's so true, and I think you hit, a really important thing about it's also bringing the customer together. Because you hear about it brings dev and operations together, but it does bring everything together, as you say. Now, I know you've worked in quite a number of sort of immature organisations where you've helped establish kind of service management practices within those organisations. What would you say were the biggest challenges that you faced?
First of all, if you don't mind me just to make a slight adjustment to the wording. So
Yeah.
I worked in various organizations and there were a different level of maturity.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You have organizations very mature in a certain aspect, but there might be gaps in certain other areas. And this is where the service management skill set is to identify where we could add value or where we could, for instance, create growth and create further improvement even at a mature organization. I think that's even harder when you find a mature organization is what else would you do? Continuous improvement is one of our responsibility. So the skill is where to find the area that needs further improvement or needs more attention. And I think that's where perhaps the challenges and again the skill set is where how do you bring people on the journey? Because it's people, it's teams, it's department, stakeholders, as well as processes. How do you take them forward? And it's very important that we also listen that it's not a one way, it's not a one direction, it's not a one solution fits all. We need to also identify the right way to all as a group, as a community, to achieve that improvement. And this is where the service manager needs to embed themselves within the team, work with them, understand their challenges, and bring them on board. And I think perhaps that is the challenge, but that's the beauty of it as well, is where you bring people on the journey. Even if we could see the solution, there's no point of implementing it because we do not implement in reality. We guide, we support, we facilitate, but we support the teams to achieve that improvement themselves.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we're guilty within IT of just seeing like technology as an answer. And it's very rarely the answer. It might be the enabler, but it's always people that's the actual answer. That's right. Totally agree with that. Now, one of the things I was interested in, we talked before, I'm interested in is you've worked in risk and control as well, haven't you? Or establishing risks and controls. Yeah, and again, you said that, it's a particularly can be quite a difficult thing to establish. So what sort of challenges and blockers do you face when you're looking to introduce those sorts of practices?
So part of the day job is ensuring stability and restoring services if they fail. But what we should aim to do is learn from those mistakes and avoid them in the future. Even better, when we have the bandwidth and the maturity, is foresee these issues before they happen. So I call it being a step ahead or a few steps ahead. And this is where identifying the risks and controls or the threats before they happen, or if they happen, classify them, understand them, mitigate them, and then present them to the various departments and have a plan. So this is where it's part of continuous improvement and looking ahead what's coming and having a clear action plan or at least an understanding of the threat and the risk and try as much as possible to understand it. And this is where, for me, the risk and control was a natural evolution. And actually, it goes hand in hand with service management. The boundary is very gray because part of learning from the past and planning for the future, that risk and control is key.
Yeah, totally. Because you're dealing with risk and impact. I know when I've worked with sort of operational risks in a large organisation, sometimes the difficulty is when you identify the mitigations you're looking for, it's actually getting commitment from the business to actually invoke those mitigations. You know, I remember once, I won't name anything, but I remember once we identified quite a significant operational risk, and then we were challenged on it because we only classified it as a kind of 1 in 10 year event. But 1 in 10 year event is not that uncommon. So do you come across anything like that during your career?
Yes, of course. This is again part of the key skills that are important is having the right prioritization. So you need to understand the context. Most often organizations are challenged for time or resource or cost. So the day job is to make sure what we have works. So to have a bandwidth to work ahead of that and avoid or mitigate risks which are not real yet, that is already going out of our way. So which risks do you focus on? Again, this is where classification of the risk, understanding our priorities, understanding what is at stake is key. And that's where you see, do I have the bandwidth to do that? Is it important? What are the implications if that risk happens? And this is where the risk acceptance is all a balance of finding the right answer to the risk that is real. The other thing, also a reality we have to understand and accept. You have different industries. Some are regulated where the risks have to be mitigated based on certain regulations. In other industry, maybe it's cost, maybe it's customer expectation, maybe it's consumers. So we need to understand what is the context of the organization to make the right prioritization.
Yeah, exactly. I would sometimes refer to as risk appetite, isn't it? So it's understanding the risk appetite. Now, I know something else you're really passionate about, and I think it's worth touching on this because this is quite new, I feel, for service management. But you're really passionate, aren't you, about introducing sustainability? Do you want to sort of just give an outline of how we can be more sustainable within the service management community?
So, for me, it's a long-winded answer. First of all, to highlight the case for sustainability is there. It's real. It's big. It's relevant for pretty much all the industries. All the organizations have that challenge ahead of them of how to embrace sustainability. For some industries, it will be driven by regulation. It will be mandated, so it's not optional. For other organizations or industries, it is a matter of also keeping up with the demand of their customers who are more rigorous. It's keeping up with profitability also, because there's a huge market share there to be taken. There's a huge opportunity to embrace. It's also the mindset. These are the values we want to do, doing the right thing. So sustainability is here. It's not going away. It is the biggest strategic driver in the next few years. So the level of maturity of organization, how far they are into this journey, is various. But most of the big names, big companies have already established their own roadmap, agenda, have started taking measures, have started taking reporting, which will become mandatory at some point for certain industries. And this is where I think service management could be the right place where we could bring service management to the ground, to the various departments. It shouldn't be a department running on the side by itself, collating numbers separately. It needs to be really embedded in the core of every industry. And I think technology is the right place. And I personally feel service management is the right place, as that's where we do continuous improvement. That's where we look for efficiency. That's where we look for stability. And sustainability is in line with that. I don't have an answer of how to do it, but I think it's the right group of people who are service managers, are interacting with the various department technology, the various stakeholders, understand the values of the various changes. And this is where we need to start quantifying that sustainability impact. Try to reduce it if it's negative, try to create a positive impact. And most importantly, the measurement, that reporting, is what we do. It's part of service management skill set. So I think we need to start that journey.
Yeah, and it makes sense to me. I mean, we talked about it before, in that, if you're measuring value, you could also measure impact of that value as well. And as you said, a lot of service management is about capturing all these measures and metrics, and it's the ideal opportunity to kind of measure where there is sustained loss, essentially. So yeah, now you're doing a talk on this, aren't you? Is it next week or the week after? I can't remember.
Yes, it's a closed group, and I'm trying to stir the topic. I'm quite passionate about it, and I'd like to bring it to more tables. There's a group of leaders from different companies, mainly technology, and I'd like again to be this disruptor who asks, like, how are you getting on with your sustainability journey in technology? I know lots of companies have agendas well established, but I'd like to ask on the ground our fellow service managers and tech leaders.
Yeah, it's not like you say, it's not joined up. So like you said, a lot of businesses will have a sustainability target, but this doesn't often, those targets don't always make their way down to the service teams, do they? Or the service design and other elements. Yeah, I must admit, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen it. It's never really been a core topic, I don't think, at any kind of service management event I've been to. So, but it is so important.
Yes. If you go back in history, I think when the question about information security started becoming a reality, initially it was one department disjointed, and then when the threat has become real, everyone's asking the question. I think it's the value is cost, it's time, but it's also sustainability. How does this change affect the company or the world around us in any way? And I'd like also to flag up, it's not just carbon emission. There's 17 sustainability goals as defined by the United Nations. So it could be making digital accessibility, renewable energy. It could be that the product can be recycled, so the product life cycle management. So it's a bit wider. And I think if we start asking the question, we start the learning journey, because it's not going to be an easy journey. So the sooner we start thinking about it, and having that in the back of our head, say, oh, does my project have any impact, or does this service has any impact on clean water access or reducing poverty? It's not obvious, and this is where the challenge, you might think of a HR project rollout, that's where we could be making real impact. It could be accessibility, the colors are accessible to people, or you might have your website is accessible to people with vision issues. So it could be anything.
Yeah, having I've worked in that previously. Having things like having a website that's compatible with screen readers and things like that is really important. And often people don't always think about that when they're designing the service or providing the service as well. Right. Well, we could go on forever. It's a fascinating topic. Where can people find out more about what you're up to? Have you got like a LinkedIn profile?
I am on LinkedIn, yes, and I love to talk about sustainability, about service management. I'd like to, I'm happy to take on more conversations when possible. So yeah, reach out to me if you wish. And I'd like to keep an eye on your podcast. You have an amazing, amazing idea here, and you're stirring quite a few good ideas.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, we'll put a link to your LinkedIn in the description. So, thank you very much, Hind. So, just to wrap things up. So, as Hind said, so if you do enjoy these podcasts, then do watch some of the other episodes. You might find the other topics interesting. Do share these with your friends, either the YouTube feed or on LinkedIn. Do give us comments as well. We'd love to hear from you, and we do read all your comments, and that will be fascinating. Again, either on YouTube or LinkedIn, whichever's easiest for you. Always me to do is to thank him for joining me this month.
Thank you.
And
I would love to hear if anyone has any ideas how they brought already or think of bringing sustainability into service management. Any feedback, critics are welcome. It's just an idea that I'd like to explore further.
There we go. There's a call to action. And I hope you'll all join us again next month.
Thank you.